Hi folks, you're with Tacitus I'm still having trouble with this count, at your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the claim being made by most Western governments at the moment, and all in unison, and all in coordinated, and all using the same talking points, and all using the same script, that they're claiming there's a skills shortage. And the only way to solve this skills shortage is, of course, to bring in gazillions of black, brown peasants from the third world. So I was looking at an interview on, I think it was British television, and the two biggest skill shortages that were discussed, at least in the interview, were fruit pickers. Now, I don't know how big an industry Britain has in fruit and agriculture, given the vast amounts of agricultural products they import, then I can't imagine that sector's too big. But anyway, nor if it's in Britain would if it's in the the farm belt, nor would any of this fruit picking be far from a major population centre. So it's hard to imagine that people have to be imported to pick fruit. Maybe they do, but gee, I can't see it. Nor were the people that the interviewed, nor did the interviewer, by the way, coax this out from them, nor were they convincing, or they just asserted these people are needed because no one wants to do the job or can do the job, or because it's somehow highly skilled and you have to go to a third world country to get these highly skilled people, which in itself is ridiculous. So you get people coming from the third world who have minimal skills in this area, if any, who don't speak English, who need an overseer interpreter to sort of manage them. This is somehow a better deal than using local people. Clearly it's not, and the very idea is absurd. But the one they push it here in Australia, they do it in Canada, they do it in New Zealand, that you have to bring in third world peasants to do the fruit picking. Now there are some issues that do come up. For example, say you're picking I don't know, apples or something like that, then there are apples that are ready for picking in this pass, but then you might leave them on the tree for another few weeks to further mature before you pick them in the second pass. So, and if you pick them too early, the apple's wasted. So I get that, but vast apple orchards in the third world don't exist anyway. So this idea that people would come from the third world with those skills and that knowledge is in itself quite absurd. So the way to do it is, well, nobody wants the job. Okay, well, you're paying such crap money that nobody wants to do the job. So pay better money. Or the farmers can't afford it. They can't pay better money. So the pay has to, well, then it means your farm can't exist in a market-based economy. You have to have special protections delivered by the government, whether it be in the form of tariffs, whether it be in the form of quotas. Now, these governments all scream, tariffs and quotas, oh no, that's protection, we can't do that. They're the same governments and the same people that artificially provide protection by bringing in cheap peasant labour. Now, also, when the peasant labour comes in, remember they have no legal rights, or they do have legal rights, but not aware of them. And the labour hire companies bring them out and make sure that only very tame and compliant and agreeable people are used, up to and including making threats to their parents and grandparents back in the the shithole that they came from. So they're very compliant and they're not going to make too much trouble. And they're paid crap money. They're put up in one of the farmers' barns, and they get money deducted from their pay for accommodation, and then they're fed pretty ordinary diet, and they're but maybe not so bad compared to the third world diet that they're used to, and then that gets deducted from their pay as well. So the farmers getting really labour at the cost of bringing them in from the third world, that's deducted as well. So they're down to a few bucks an hour. And they're working, particularly in the summer, they're working long days picking the fruit. So that's why, that's not a skill shortage. That's a shortage of people we can screw over. So why governments don't jump on this. Now, there are people on unemployment benefits or various handicap benefits. Why can't they go and do this work, but somehow keep their benefits? Ratio of benefits to pay. The farmer gets cheap labour. The the person on government handouts gets a bit more money to put in their pocket. Maybe it's a bit of an adventure for younger people. There are ways that it could be done, but no one's even trying. No one's even trying to think through the practical issues here. How can we make it work, with our people and our population, our citizens? Now, I don't mind if people come in on short-term work visas, 3-4 month or 6 month work visa to pick fruit. I don't care, as long as they go back. And as long as any children they have, while they're in the Western country, don't turn into anchor babies, as long as they don't bring out their relatives and all that sort of thing to free that off the health system. As long as there are protections put in place, I guess I don't really care. But the idea of trying to sell it to the population, which again is the globalist script, so trying to sell it to the domestic population as a skill shortage, it's not. It's bullshit. Now, the other thing that came up in this British thing was there's a shortage of IT professionals, particularly in the area of Wi-Fi networks and things like that. Now, someone who's spent quite a bit of time in IT, picking up the Wi-Fi network technicals is not a big deal, nor do you need that many at the central points. Sure, in the remote areas going out, and when you really sort of drill down into their thing, they want people to go out in the remote hills of, I don't know, Scotland or somewhere, in the middle of winter, and they don't want to pay them very much, so they can't find people to do it. Again, that they're not responding to supply and demand. If you've got a demand for these sort of skills, then find technicians, junior technicians you can train up. Jump all over it. Fix it. Do something about it. Don't just think, we can't do anything. We have to bring in peasants from the third world. So again, they're trying to tell us that illiterate third world peasants who don't speak a lick of English are the ones who are going to solve it all for us. I mean, it's just, or they come from countries where the wages are so low that they'll accept anything that's better than that in the first world, and will live 20 to a one-bedroom apartment just for the privilege of having a job. But these things, again, bypass market forces. You're not in a market economy. It's just another form of protection, just as bad as the most vicious forms of quotas and tariffs. So it should be rejected. Well, no, we've got a market economy here. Let's make it work as a market economy. And they're not doing that. Now, Australia is probably one of the worst offenders, or the Australian government, of both sides, of both persuasions, by the way, Conservative and Labor. They're constantly banging on about that there's this terrible shortage of people. Now, on every category they've got here, the issue is not the shortage of people. The issue is that these people either aren't paying much money or enough money. They could easily solve the problem by paying more money. Look, to give you an idea, there's here's quite a large construction company in Australia, and one of the top 10. Now, they want to pay for their executive sort of engineer about 170,000. Remember, this is the executive engineer for a big engineering company. To pay them $170,000 a year, less than a diversity director at a university. Again, this is, and this person would get paid more than say about $35,000 more per year. So again, the most senior engineer in the company, about $35,000 more than a part-time call out the mob to wave placards activist in a university. Also, they're being paid less than a diversity advisor to one of the federal politicians. So they're just not paying the money. If they paid the money, they'd have no problem getting people. there's a shortage of, so it's claimed here on this list, civil engineering professionals. But again, it's an issue of paying money. They're just not paying the money and wanting seriously qualified people. 2 degrees and a PhD to make $70,000 a year less than a diversity advisor. Now they've got another one here of early childhood teachers, kindergarten. They're not really teachers, and childcare as well. Why would you bring people out that don't speak any English for that? I mean, that's absolute nonsense. But they're paying absolutely shit money there, and they can't find people to do it. Nurses is another one. Now here's sort of a big issue. The wages of nurses have fallen so far behind increases in the cost of living. But where do you need nurses the most? You need it where the population centres are the greatest, in the big cities, that is, and where the cost of living has gone out of, just insane, gone out of control. So even in a like a regional small city that's say 120 miles from Sydney, the nurses still need to live, so they get a 3-bedroom apartment in some pretty rundown area. They still need 4 of them in there to be able to exist day to day. So they have like a bedroom each, and one of them has the convertible lounge chair that converts into a bed. That's how many they need. Now in the cities, that's tougher still. Or they've got to live quite a way out and commute vast distances, which some of them do. Nurses. So now they could solve the problem in one of 2 ways. They pay nurses more. They say they can't afford that. But again, you're not responding to the market forces and demand here. Or they offer nurses some form of accommodation, maybe small compact flatheads that they have for the time of their tenure at the hospital, so they don't have this heavy overhead of rent or whatever to pay. I mean, there are ways of solving the problem, but there's no effort, there's no attempt to solve the problem through local means. The answer is always immigration. Now, with immigration, the amount of nurses, certainly that I've come across in caring for an elderly relative, the nurses that come from the third world, well, whether they're good-hearted or not, sort of beside the point. But most of them, certainly ones I've come across, are fucking useless. Some of them try hard. Some of them, again, may be good-hearted, but good intentions don't cut it in nursing. Not alone. And you see these tiny little nurses, these tiny little Asian women are 4'9" tall, 145 centimeters tall, that weigh almost nothing, and they're trying to look after a large and very elderly and infirm Anglo woman who weighs over 100 kilograms. I mean, it's insane. But the other shortage here, I'm still looking at the Australian list here, is information and communication. Again, IT, people, analysts. But again, they want sort of top drawer talent, or so they claim here, but they only want to pay bottom drawer money, which means they're fairly begging, saying, look, the only way that we want to move forward here is if we get Indian and Pakistani programmers who are used to making $5,000-10,000 a year, and who'll be so grateful for any improvement in their situation by coming to the West and hopefully getting their residency here. Yeah. Software programmers, there's no shortage of these people. They're there, but there's the local companies. They will not train, they will not upskill, and they will not pay market salaries. They just plain won't do it. Electricians, again, most electricians. I mean, this just really shits me. Most electricians have gone into business for themselves. The idea of the corporate electrician is now quite rare. So the only way you can get electricians is if you can get, and they want fully qualified with experience. The only way you can get electricians is to get an electrician to give up their business and go and work for you for a tenuous a tenuous existence where you may fire them after 12 months. Oh, we don't need you anymore. Why would any electrician who's built up a business, do that? They just wouldn't. So there needs to be a new way of again, training and employing and offering a lifestyle to electricians, particularly in rural areas. And it's the pay and it's the conditions and it's the circumstances, the self-employment nature of electricity. No attempt is made to deal with it. No attempt is made to, let's look at this reality in front of us now, and what policies will we craft to solve it. That mentality and attitude just isn't there. Now with electricians, you can only bring them in from another first world country. Not that there are some that don't want to come, but that they don't want to come in particular, very big numbers, or certainly not enough to offset the alleged demand here. So the idea you get these people from third world countries is absolutely ridiculous and absurd. There's a shortage of chefs. Now again, with the chefs, they want to bring people in from the third world. And okay, fine, but they pay chefs ridiculously shit money. There's no way you could go and rent an apartment on your own or anything like that. So again, until they address the pay and conditions issues, then they're just not going to solve this problem. It won't be solved by bringing in third world peasants, which is what they're relying on here. Childcare is the same thing. Aged and disability carers. Now, again, there's no shortage of people, none. But they're paid such shit money that they can't afford to do the job. They have to live 5 or 6 to a one-bedroom apartment or two-bedroom apartment or more even. And so only people from the third world can come and do that and will accept that lifestyle. Why doesn't the government get out and say, too fucking bad, Australians and Western people, you're going to live 10 people to a two-bedroom apartment. If you don't like it, that's too fucking bad. And that's how we're going to solve it. They won't do that. They'd get torn to pieces at the ballot box. So they pretend it's a skill shortage. But really, we're all being nudged. To a situation that's going to unfold fully over the next 25 years, where there'll be a tiny percentage of jobs, when less than 10% of jobs will pay enough money for people to live independently. But there is no skill shortage. There's a shortage of training. There's a shortage of people being paid at market rates. That's all. Now, sure, that you can say, well, there's a shortage of dishwashers, but only because you're artificially forcing the wages down to a point where you have to bring in third world peasants. But that's, again, not market forces. In fact, it's undermining the very essence of the market and making it harder for the market to function. You've been with Tassifus today, your Pushback Channel. Thank you for listening.